Hello, KCPS science teachers. How's everybody doing today? This training video, which hopefully we'll try to keep it short, is how to use and access the Explore Learning Gizmos. We're going to kind of break it down into two parts today. We've got looking at your class rosters. How do you simplify that process so getting students logged on does not take that much time? And then I've got my friend Rich Baumann here, who's going to help showcase an example Gizmo, how that kind of works for those that are new to it, and where you can find all those resources. It's also useful because I don't have classes, so I don't have a roster to show you. So Rick's going to share his screen, and we'll take a look at how we can make this simpler. Go ahead, share, Rick. And if you want to talk about where you teach at, that might be a good.
Yes, everyone. I teach at KCBA, and I am a middle school science teacher. So I use the Gizmo frequently. So hopefully this will be helpful.
Yep. Yeah, Rick was one of those few people that when we all came back from teaching virtual, he stayed.
Yeah.
All right. So this is your default login page whenever you go to Explore Learning. Rick's going to go in and navigate while I talk us through. We'll go to Manage Students. You might be able to get there through My Classes, but we're going to Manage Students. And luckily, Rick just got handed a new class. So this is what it will look like in terms of their access and passwords. And sometimes it seems like it's paused. Just let that sit for a second and it loads up. I've noticed that across multiple teachers. It's not your computer. That's just the website. So here's what we've got here. There's two things that we want to modify before we start using Gizmos. I've already tried to reach out to IT and Gizmos to fix this one issue, but you'll notice there on the right-hand side on the column that says product access. That should be blue in order for students to actually access it. So go ahead and click on one of them. And what that's going to do is bring up this page. And if you go to the top left of this chart, instead of going through and doing this for every student individually, if you hit the top checkbox, and then if you scroll down, Mr. Baumann, that'd be awesome, and hit the access. This will enable the access for all the students in that class. Hit the drop down again, and then enable it. And so now instead of having to go through and enable every student, we can just enable them all right at once. Let's see if it loads up, and there we go. That should be default. Like, I don't know why it's doing that, but until IT and Explore Learning figure out why it's defaulting to disabled, that's your fix. All right. And then if you go back over to roster instead of assignments there, now you'll see there's passwords. This used to be different from how Explore Learning and Gizmos used to be, but it creates these, and you can scroll through a few of those, Rick. It creates kind of just random gibberish passwords. And so your option would be, well, I could print these out, and then every time we try to log in, I've got to walk around, help students get their passwords. But actually what we want to do is edit the profile. And we're just going to change the password to something simple like 1234556. You could type in science, something where we're going to use this. And I did a copy and paste that, and that just saved me on time. But you're just going to change all their passwords to something default simple like that. Because when students log in, they don't actually have access to really anything except doing the Gizmos. And most of the work is they're going to do on paper anyways. So it's not like students can cheat or steal information by knowing others' passwords. So this way you can say, here's everybody's, let's get logged in. You're just going to use this password. And in fact, they don't even use that student ID to log in. They type in your username. Correct, Rick?
Correct.
Yep.
My email address, yes.
Yep, they use your teacher's email address or their username. And that pulls up the classes. They choose their class, they choose them, and then every student can then type in 1234556 to get in. And so what that does is, all right, now to start using it in the beginning of your class, it's going to be quicker than, all right, let's figure out everybody's passwords. So that's what we suggest you do until they fix this weird system they've created. All right, with that, I think that handles most of that. But if you guys are trying to use Gizmos and you have questions on rostering and that stuff, reach out to me via email. Rick's going to go ahead and cover the second half of this video and show us a Gizmo he's used before, where you can find all the stuff and kind of the features if you're new to Gizmos. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, so again, this is my home screen, and there's a couple different ways to go about this, but let's just start off with we're looking for a new gizmo. Okay, so we want to find one, but we're not quite sure, you know, which gizmo it is, what we have, etc. Well, if you hit that Explore button up at the top, you're going to have 3 different topics recommended for me. You can go by academic standards. I personally like to browse by grade and topic. Okay, so I'm going to click on that one. And you can see here's your grade and topic. Well, science, depending on your grade level, I'm 6 through 8. So I have it broken down, physical, life, earth, etc. That is all there. So let's just pick a life science. So here we go. So it has picked up 6 through 8, all of the life science gizmos that are available. You can scroll down through all of these. You can see, you know, you got osmosis, virus cycle, growing plants. I'm just going to pick one. Okay, let's do a photosynthesis lab. So I click on photosynthesis lab, and here's what pops up. Now, here is going to be the gizmo, but we have not launched it yet. One thing I wanted to share with you is there is what's called a student exploration sheet. This is kind of like guided notes where the students can actually see they have something to work from while they're doing the gizmo. There are different ways. You can actually open this up and run a hard copy if you want to, but you can also do a digital copy. So if you take this student exploration sheet, and I'm going to come back to the gizmo, how we use it, but I just wanted to show you this because this is really important. If you do this, and I'm just going to open it up, and for this sake, just a app, I'm going to make a copy in Google Docs. I'm going to show you what this one looks like. So here we go. Here is their actual worksheet, or they call it student exploration sheet. Depending on how you want to use this, you can make this live, but they always start off with a prior knowledge question. So before they ever do a gizmo, here are some things that, you know, will get them engaged. What's their prior knowledge? What do they know? They also give you key vocabulary words associated with this gizmo, like carbon dioxide, chlorophyll, glucose, etc. Then every gizmo has a gizmo warm-up, okay? It's just getting them acclimated how to use this particular gizmo. It is not even an activity yet. The instructions are step by step. After they go through that, answer these accordingly. You can work with them. You can have them work independently, small groups, whatever works best for your class. But when you want to get into the guts of this, here's activity A, okay? There's like activity A, B, C, and D. Activity A, it gives you step by step. Get the gizmo ready. Tells you exactly what to do, how to do it, what to turn on, etc. And then you go through the questions, and then you can start answering, and it's your live document. Okay. So you have that one there. Let me go into the other thing. So let me go back.
You want the tab up the top to the left.
Which one?
Hit the tab just left of where you're at, up at the top. About 4 more in.
It is covered with the bar.
Oh, the bar's in the way. Yeah, I gotta love that.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, and one more over.
We're gonna squeeze it in here.
Yeah, you need one more. There you go. There you
Perfect.
go.
Okay.
The teachers won't see that, but yeah, I know when you record videos, you got your Zoom bar right up the top blocking everything.
It takes up all the space, and until
Yeah,
it decides to time out, you're at its mercy. Okay. Here is the actual Gizmos. So you can see you can launch this Gizmo. Let me get over here.
And before you
Launch it.
launch it, because you do have,
Yes.
you can click it to launch, or there's a launch button you can add to class. You can go back down to the documents. Couple things to point out. Teacher guide, if you want a little bit more step-by-step. Those are pretty self-explanatory, like Rick was showing. It tells the students, here's what to do. There you go. But just in case you want a teacher's guide, they do have those available. And it's like, here's your objectives and those vocabulary again, and the overview. If you jump back, speaking of vocabulary, they have those vocab words all listed out and defined in vocab sheets, which might be useful if you have some language barriers or things like that as a reference sheet for students. These give not only detailed, but examples, as you can see there. So that's pretty nice to have handy as well, depending on where your students are at. And then this is actually something I just noticed today, Rick. If you can jump back, I saw that it said Spanish and French versions included. Is that something you can click on just below all the sheets? Or do you, sorry, you went too low.
It doesn't populate. It's
So
just
if you, I'm curious, I'll have to dig into that. But for those who have like dual language schools, that might be useful. All right, let's go ahead and launch the Gizmo, and you can walk through what that looks like, and then we'll wrap
okay.
it up.
So here's the Gizmo. Here's your launch button with the rocket on there. Students see the same thing on their end. So, and it's always in purple. So there's the actual live document. Okay. Now, again, each one is different. You'll have different tabs across the top, depending on what that Gizmo is. Again, this one here, you have your color light, or you want white light on this particular lab. Again, this is an interactive lab. You can see it has motion, so you can see the gaseous molecules being created. You have different things that you can use. Here's your temperature control. So you can raise or you can lower the temperature. Remember, everything affects something else. So your oxygen level will, be affected by the temperature. And then your light intensity, you can lower it, you can raise it, and then your percentile of carbon dioxide there, okay? Now that's just the parameters, okay? And then here's the oxygen that's being produced on this this gauge. So we look here, you have a table. So depending on what the Gizmo is, remember we're doing those activities, activity A, B, C, they might require that you have a table or a bar chart or a graph, okay? All things related to this. It's a step-by-step process. But this here is just the description, and it's talking about what's occurring. White light being used and what happens in the event that you have colored light. And then again, colored light, you have the wavelengths on them. So depending on, which scale on the spectrum of light affects the amount of oxygen being produced. That's
And
pretty
then
much it on that one.
bottom left, you got the tools. Sometimes, what do they got there? Right,
Tools,
so
yeah.
that probably not typically used, but let's say the student is doing this at home. They could drop in an arrow to point at a specific thing, take a screenshot. So like if you put this on Canvas, students could click and drag an arrow to a specific number, take a screenshot. Now it's saved on their computer, and they could upload that picture if this is something that you're having them. So like they collected the data, they could snap a photo of that. I think most of the time you probably just want this in class, have that printed out. But as an option, there you go.
Lots of tools
Yeah.
to be used.
This is a lot of simulations. There's a ton online, but this one's very professional. And then scroll down and I'll show that last thing. every Gizmo has like a 5-question assessment, and then these grades would go into the grade book. It's kind of that's what I always had students do when they were done. So that way, students who finished early, here's one more thing for you to go do. And this it's also a good check for how much did they pick up on? Where are my students struggling? Pretty
And
good question.
sometimes they'll see this, it's like 5 questions. They'll see it right with the gizmo. You might tell them to hold off. This is the last thing that
Yeah.
they're going to do because it's not going to make sense to them until they actually do
Yeah.
the gizmo.
But what I like about them being right there is they can go back and reference their data or the gizmos to answer it, which is kind of a scientific practice. So, okay, I'm feeling that tingling that we've been going for a while, and teachers, time is precious. So, you can stop sharing your screen and then we'll close out. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. I'm going to be putting in, or already have, depending on when you watch this, putting gizmos more embedded in the scope and sequence so that way you guys can see the exact gizmos and where they can be used at, and that should make it simpler for you guys. Rick, I want to thank you for helping me out today.
Thank you. Good luck,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.